As the founders of Surefoot, Bob and Russ Shea are obsessed with creating the perfect ski boot for you because they know that a properly fitted custom ski boot will make you a better skier, whatever level you're at. Surefoot, better fitting, better skiing.
Hello, Freeride family. Welcome back to the Freeride Guide. We are on episode 5 already. This is the Val Thorens recap episode. These are probably the best episodes because we get to talk about the exciting stuff that just happened. My name is Mark Warner.
And I'm Derek Foose, and that was a show. Man, what a comp. Holy cow. France just turned it up to 11.
It helps when there's some bluebird POW days to compete in. Like, it looked awesome.
Yeah, big time. We've had some, I guess, some unlucky ones, in recent years. That was a lucky one. Just all up, like the conditions, the face, the riding, the crowd. It was sick. They definitely wanted a good one. The French organizing team, they were hungry for it. It's been a while since Freeride's been in France, and they wanted it. So they put a lot into it for sure. Like, the opening ceremonies was insane. They had a 4-time world champion DJ. They had fireworks. Like, it was definitely, I think, the best FWT opening ceremony I've ever been to.
No way.
And I know I've only been there since 2019, but that's a decent span of time. And they put it on. They had this huge flat area on top of a building. Well, I guess it's not totally flat. There's a building they call the board, and the roof of it's shaped like a snowboard, but it's covered in snow, like a giant, very gentle half pipe. And they had a huge stage on one end, and then like full beer garden in there. They had one of those bungee tramp rockets that people could just get on and get fired up into the air. Yeah, like I said, fireworks, everything. They threw everything at this event to make it sick, and I'd say top to bottom success.
Very, very cool. So before we get into that, we're just going to get to some of this business. So if you're listening to the Freeride Guide, if this is your first time listening to the Freeride Guide, or glad that you're here, it must mean you're a fan of Freeride World Tour and Freeride competition. We want you to watch us on YouTube if you like the YouTube thing. You'll see us chatting with each other on YouTube. So that's via the Low Pressure Podcast channel, but just type in the Freeride Guide and you'll find the playlist of every single episode. Also, you can follow on any podcast app there is, whether it's Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, or any random podcast spot that they may have in like Russia or India. I don't know where you're at, but you can get it there. If you enjoy the show, we'd appreciate it if you would give us a 5-star review or just give us some nice words. Big thanks to our sponsor, Surefoot Custom Ski Boots. They also have the Surefoot Custom Heated Liners, which I have, which we're going to need next week in Kicking Horse because it's going to be cold, as well as Surefoot Custom Orthotics. So Surefoot is the best place to go for ski boots because they are a long-term investment. And it's the one thing that when you travel, you got to make sure you bring on the plane with you because they're important. It's for real. Like, you can get skis after a year. You can upgrade your skis. But when you have a good pair of boots, they are the most important piece of equipment you own. So don't take my word for it. Head into a Surefoot shop near you and figure out how to up your game when it comes to your ski boots with some custom ski boots, custom heated liners, custom orthotics at one of their 29 locations across Canada, US, Europe. You can visit surefoot.com to find the closest location to you. And we're not BSing it. We do both have been using Surefoot for a long time. And I have the heated liners I have for many, many years. And from what I could tell, Kicking Horse next week is going to be about -18 to -25. So I may try and find a second pair of batteries because we're going to be outside for like 10 hours or something like that. So I can keep them cranked to the top. But for real, if you want your feet feeling good, go hit up Surefoot. All right. So as you guys know, We want you involved in the show as well. And we have an opportunity for you to participate. It's called the backslap line or the backslap mailing box. It's still a little janky, but
It's the backslap.
It's the backslap. Yes. So if we backslapped on a take, you want to give us a slap on the back, or we haven't covered anything, this is your chance. It's backslap@freerideguide.com. Send us that email, and we've got one. So, Derek, I'll read this out to you. This one is coming from Mike at Whitewater. First of all, I wanted to thank you both for putting together such an awesome podcast that really caters to free riders and speaks to our community. Well, thank you. That's exactly why we wanted to do it. All right, this one comes from Mike in Whitewater. First off, I want to thank you both for putting together such an awesome podcast that really caters to free riders and speaks to our community. Thank you, Mike. I've been listening for the last couple of years, and I work in the ski industry operating snowcats. And to be able to keep up with the FWT and other aspects of the sports while working through the night is really awesome. So that's cool. So you plug into your ears as you're grooming the trails. I dig it. With that being said, working wacky hours means I rarely get to watch the FWT live and therefore rely on the replays on YouTube, which are fantastic and so well put together, in my opinion. I agree. That's where I watch it. However, I can't help but be frustrated with the way the FWT name their videos on YouTube. Why do they have to put the winners' names in the title of a video showing the highlights of the winning run? It's almost impossible to search for the full live broadcast without seeing the name of the winner, which completely changes the watching experience for the worse as you know the final outcome. I find it super frustrating and, in my opinion, completely unnecessary. Why can't the title of the video simply be Ski Men's Winning Run from etc. 2025 or the event? It's hard. It's hard enough to avoid seeing who the winner is all over social media, but I generally manage to avoid it right up to the point of searching for the live broadcast on YouTube. It's a real case of first world problems, but it makes no sense to me. Just wondering what your thoughts are. Apart from that, I'm stoked for the new season to be starting, especially with the 6-stop format. I think it'll make for a much more rounded competition overall. Keep up the great work, fellas. Always excited when a new episode of the podcast comes out, and I wish you all the best for the winter season. Cheers, Mike. So for those of you that stayed through that, listening to me read, I agree with you, Mike. I watch a lot of sports. I watch a lot of hockey. I will watch the Freeride World Tour. I usually stay up and watch it, but if I have to, the thing I hate the most is when you're talking to somebody and they're like, "Oh, hey, did you hear the score of the game?" Or they start telling you about the game. You're like, "No, I don't want to do it. I've got it saved for later. I'm going to watch it for later." Because I know in my head, I've set that time aside. I'm doing whatever I got to do in the day. I want to sit down and relax. I want to watch some Freeride, or I want to watch some hockey or some baseball, and I don't want it ruined for me. So I get you. I understand. I don't know why. We don't set up the YouTube for them for the Freeride World Tour. But I did a little test, and I was talking to Derek about this earlier. I think if you go to the YouTube channel and just type in the event and the replay, it'll just go straight to kind of that page, and it'll show, I guess, the events themselves. I don't know what your homepage looks like. It might just be littered with FWT stuff. But another option is to go directly to the website. The homepage of the website will show the replay, but as far as
Freeride World Tour website.
Yeah, pardon me. Thanks. The Freeride World Tour website, directly to the Freeride World Tour website, because you can see the replay there. And they don't, as far as I've noticed, they don't list who won anything. It just shows the competition replay, and then go in and do it from there. Don't click on the results underneath.
Yeah, because it shows a little gold star on the winning run from each category there too,
and it tells you the numbers, so you can actually just click replay. But if you want to follow along with this show, you can watch it online at the Freeride World Tour website, and you can click on every individual rider's runs. So we're getting away from your question, Mike. So basically what I would say is just type in on YouTube just the results and that event, or go straight to the homepage of the FWT website and then just don't click on anything else. Yeah, for you guys listening, to follow along with us, if you have the opportunity to, you can go to the Freeride World Tour website and you can actually go and click on every rider's individual run. So as we're talking about what's going on, you can know exactly what's happening and watch it in real time. All right, shall we get rolling here?
Let's do it.
Got lots of notes. So last time we did our little update when they changed the event venue to the Lac Noir, if I'm not mistaken. They had 3 start gates, right?
That's right. 3 start gates. Yeah. One on the summit, one mid-ridge, and one further down. It was pretty hard to get all the way over to the stuff you could access from start 3 from either of the other 2. Combination of it was flat and it was really deep. So the idea was they didn't want to have people just traversing across the flats after doing one thing to get all the way over there as well, which, I mean, it would have been cool if you could link that up. But yeah, it was fine. And I think it was interesting. They said they had originally thought about doing 5 starts, and then the setup team, the TV team, all said absolutely not. That's insane. Like, no.
Yeah, I bet you it was the yeah, maybe some of the head honchos and maybe some of the people that are controlling the. Yeah, I don't know who's. I won't speculate. Who had the idea for the 5 starting gates? Because I can tell you right now, that's way too many. I can tell that as soon as you said that, I'm like, the operations team are probably like get out of here.
Yeah, what are you talking about? And TV too, like having to know which start to send the drone to and focus the camera. Anyway, 3 was great, and it was super interesting to see who did what out of which start, because there were a few people that made pretty good use of start 2 and still filled their runs up on the lower part of the face with a bit of working across, but not really getting bogged. And then for quite a few of the snowboarders opting to just drop right out of start 3 and get straight into it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We talked about Bluebird Pow Day. It was pretty spectacular. It was really awesome watching some of those early riders put down some tracks. It's pretty exciting. We have a special guest today, actually, before we get any further. We have a special guest today, Reine Barkered, Freeride World Tour Hall of Famer. Is there an official Hall of Fame yet?
No, there is in my mind, and Reina's in it.
Yep, I've been saying that a bunch, and every time I say it to him, he looks at me funny, but I don't care because it's true. So Reine Barkered, Hall of Famer, joined me earlier today, and we covered the ski men's category. So we'll cut to that in just a minute, and you and I are going to finish off the rest. But I'd like to hear a couple thoughts of yours on the ski men competition while we get that started.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it's been a long time since ski men have opened the field up. So having them go first with the conditions the way they were was definitely super exciting, and also proved to be pretty challenging for them. The deep snow, it was a bit of a double-edged sword. It was super nice, really fun to ski in, but it challenged a lot of people on the landings to stay over top of the skis. We saw a lot of punch fronts, a lot of skis come off.
7 out of 21 riders, so a third of the field ended up no score.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a big percentage, and a lot of those were either people punch fronting or people going too far, because a lot of those landings went. They were fine.
Maxime, for instance, went a little bit too far.
Simon Paradin, Wei Tian.
Wei Tian hit the bomb hole. Yeah. Landed right in a bomb hole.
Yeah, there was a bunch of that, and that's what you get in a powder comp, right? If it's hard, if the snow's hard, the landing is the same for everybody, and it doesn't really change that much. It'll get dented and stuff, and you'll get tracks, but this is different, and it proved to be challenging for a lot of the riders. So it was interesting. I mean, Turdell with a huge punch front, super out of the norm. You never see that guy really lose balance, let alone get sent flipping down the face. So yeah, it was It's cool. Everybody's like, "Yo, we got a powder," but they're like, "Oh, but that brings a bunch of different challenges that
Yeah.
that we haven't had in a while."
It's pretty
So
exciting to see. You'll hear in a minute, but I asked Reina about who are their specialists, like powder specialists, when it comes to this sort of thing. So why don't we just get into that right now? I'm going to cut to that conversation with Reina and I, and we kind of discuss a lot of different things. So we're going to get to that right now, including ski men. All right, hey Reina, welcome to the Freeride Guide. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing well. It is a pleasure to have a former Freeride World Tour champion, Hall of Famer, legend of the sport. Do they have a Hall of Fame set up yet?
I don't believe so.
So at your retirement ceremony in Verbier, I would consider that, like, I'm a big sports fan. I would consider that if they were jerseys, like numbered jerseys, I would assume they would retire your jersey number.
Oh yeah. That was a very very moving moment. They went above and beyond for me there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, especially with the Dynastar, your longtime ski sponsor had those special skis made for you too, which is pretty cool. But that was a pretty neat moment. I've got some fun photos of you just holding the skis up, fireworks going off behind you, like such a grand scene.
Fireworks.
Such a grand scene.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you here, and keeping your kind of foot in the door, your finger on the pulse of the free ride world. Do you miss it?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's tough to be away from it all. At the same time, there's so much other stuff going on that it's, even if you want it or not, you gonna distance yourself a little bit from it because you have other stuff going on, of course. But I do miss it, and I talk to Christopher and Carl when they're down there. Maybe they send me a picture when they're sitting in the sun with a beer, and I was like, oh man. But then I see Gogan run, and I was like, oh, I don't miss it at all. Like, I don't want to be next in start gate there.
That was my next question. I'm like, after seeing like kind of the evolution, even in the last couple of years, are you thinking like, okay, I've made the right call? I'm good.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, and it's not so straightforward. I mean, 100%. I made the right call. Like, the level on that stuff is insane. I think I think I can hold my own still on like some pretty steep and technical stuff. Like, I could hold my own well, but everything else that you need now and so on, it's like, nah, no chance. It's like I have bad decent looking backflips, but that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Do Carl and Christopher say on this event we just had, the Val Thorens Pro, which is a new face? Did they send you a picture of the face just to see if you had any thoughts or the same? Because you guys all think fairly similar. A lot of the times your lines were close to the same, or they had mild variations, but for the most part, you guys see the mountain the same way. Did they send you a photo of the face during face check to see kind of what your thoughts were?
Not on this one. On the last one they did, but on this one I saw it pretty late. But I remember as soon as the live feed started, when they actually showed the face, I think I looked at Carl's line right away. It's like, oh, that would be a cool way down. That's like the movie line.
All right, so I'm glad you brought that up. Like, we can get right into it. So, Val, you're going to help us out for the men's category here, because a lot of these guys, you competed in it for a long time. So it was a POW day in Val Thorens in France, the second event of this year's 2025 Freeride World Tour. That is exciting. I don't we were talking about this yesterday, and I don't remember the last time there was a good POW day competition. It's been a couple of years, I think.
Not like this. Yeah, it's been a couple of years. For me, it feels recent, but it's because I've been retired for a couple of years.
Yeah, right.
So
maybe it's just a day that you got to ski.
Yeah, but you're right. It's rare, and it's been a while.
Right. So it's it was exciting for me to watch because I had a lot of expectations for some spectacular tricks, but also I made the call. I actually watch along on the YouTube stream, and I'm pretty active in the chat. And I called it. I said, "Hey, let's see how many skis pop off." And in the men's category, we had 7. So out of 21 riders, a third had their skis popped off. You had Wei Tiano Ho, who was having a spectacular run, landed in a bomb hole at the bottom. You had Maxime Chablot send a backflip to the parking lot and missed the transition and almost landed on the uphill. You had Tom Pfeiffer, who had a snow snake, who got robbed right at the top, just had the ski snap right off. You had Edvin Olsen, Abel, you had Christopher the Cat, Christopher Trudell, Simon Paradin, all lost skis. So, these POW days, Bluebird POW days, looks spectacular, especially for us watching. Can be spectacular, specifically like in the middle of the two sections of the run for the riders or at the bottom, but it's not necessarily better for Freeride because there's that extra element of uncertainty, whether like, I don't know how high your DINs are cranked or even if it's enough, but you may be a victim to circumstance based on the conditions.
Yeah, 100%. It's I always found those competitions to be the toughest. It was one. I mean, it's different too. If you're in Japan, you expect it, and it's kind of fun no matter what because you know that's what you want and it's going to be. But in other instances, just like you said, it's like it adds that element of uncertainty. You don't really know how you're going to be on your skis in the landing. You can easily get off track a little bit when trying to take speed to your big feature, and all of a sudden you outside leg get caught in the snow, or best case scenario you lose all your speed and it turns into like a meh. So from a competition standpoint, it's pretty awful. At the same time, you do have fun when you ride it. It's just it's harder to like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. It's like, well, we'll see what you're gonna do.
Right. And I guess if you have the ability to ski around the resort days in advance, you can kind of see what the snow is doing, right? So like I'm assuming, and this is just assuming, that there are some riders who are better in these conditions than others. So I'm thinking like I watch a lot of F1 racing, right? And you get those days where it's wet, and there's certain drivers that are better in the wet than others. And I would assume there are certain skiers that are better in the deep POW than there are on the regular hard pack conditions. So like yourself, we were talking the other day, if there's a firm landing, maybe a little tiny bit of POW on the top is kind of your jam. You're from Sweden, not a lot of POW where you're coming from. You do get it, but it's not in abundance. To say to someone like Marcus or Wei-Tian or Tom, who grew up in Whistler or the Pacific Northwest, or those riders from like Alta in Utah or something. So I don't know. Have you ever thought about that? Some riders might be better in the deep than others.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's easy to say, like for Scandinavians, it's actually hard. When we get a powder competition first thing, we're pretty nervous because it's like we haven't skied powder since maybe March the year prior. So that can be extremely challenging, and we didn't grow up on it. When we come to Canada and we see these guys hitting big pillow lines, I look over to Trudell. It's like, do you like, how do you position yourself forward on the pillow, or can you take the flat line? It's like, we don't know because we never get to do it. So you just have to try to figure it out. I mean, over the years you learn, but we're never going to catch up the ability to ride powder so well as Marcus Gogan. At the same time, you're going to have people from the Alps that really struggle with like pretty severe hard pack, while an East Coast skier, US, no issue, or a Kiwi. So
right,
it's a huge difference, I would say, between riders. I would say now, though, at least when it comes to bad conditions, people have been pretty challenged in the competition scene over the years. In the last
that's 2 years at least. 2.5 years. It's been a lot of garbage.
Yeah, so people are definitely picking it up. Before we had an easier time as Scandinavians and stuff when it was difficult conditions competing in the Alps, but I felt like people have been catching up on that.
Right. Well, you mentioned Carl a couple of times and being Swede, but I'll tell you, we're gonna get to the men's competition. We can actually start right now, but before we really get into that, Carl didn't make the top 3, but I think he had my favorite run of the entire competition.
Yeah, mine as well. Holy!
It looked like a film run, like a big mountain film run. Cruises into that top section. Has to wipe his goggles off because he gets a huge face shot, ends up going in scrubbing speed, gets fully white roomed into the huge double, cuts out the whole pocket on that shelf, straight lines, and then doubles it out. Like it was like 2 in the morning here, and I was like, hands in the air, like trying not to like scream to wake everybody up. I'm like, that was amazing.
That was amazing. And like I said, it was just like a movie line. And I was in like, oh my God, this is so insane. And you don't see that very often in competition.
And
And
it didn't
then you
last.
see
Yeah, it didn't last too long. That was, like I said, the most impressive run. There were a lot of like POW runs. Like I'd say, like Michael Mon, I knew for a fact would take advantage of it. I remember, I think in Fieberbrunn a couple of years ago, he was just slashing turns and getting face shots near the end of one of his runs. I'm like, oh, that guy is just enjoying it. And I called that too. I'm like, I bet you he's going to go and milk some turns at the bottom. And sure enough.
Yeah.
But that was amazing to watch.
And one of the better runs, I would say, I looked at his Instagram feed. One, he posted a photo taken from like the finish line perspective, and there was even more impressive. It looked insane. It's like breaking right and left. And then I saw the comments on his feed, and like, all these big time matchstick skiers are like, yes, that's the run.
That's exactly.
But it didn't score well.
Didn't score well. It didn't translate, unfortunately, all that well. I think because
you need a couple of tricks,
and I don't think he was able to put them in there because he was just holding on, getting through it. Right, like he was in it. There's like there's no stopping because this big pocket ripped out. I've got all this speed. You can't see, so it's just basically let's hold on and get through this run. So it was kind of like he and Christopher rode the same line. If it was in reverse, who knows what would have happened? Christopher ended up having a punch front, but the snow wasn't cascading. He wasn't getting white roomed like Carl was. So who knows how that would have turned out in the opposite direction? But that's Freeride. You don't really know. But line of the day for me from Carl for sure. Like I gotta shout that out.
And tons of core shots apparently. You couldn't see that in the video, but he showed his skis and it's like, oh my God, his skis were wrecked.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, it was insane. I was like, what? But okay, I could see some maybe a little peppery on the takeoffs here and there, but I didn't see much else. But then again, we saw Tom Pfeiffer getting just caught on what looked like nothing. So I suppose they're under there.
So Carl ended up doing all that, and he ripped his skis apart in the process, and didn't wipe out or go down. So he had to battle against that as well. Yeah,
and no prize money. What a shitty day.
I don't know. I'd say it worked up in street cred.
yeah, it did.
Everybody's digging that. So let's get into kind of men's ski. So we'll talk about a bunch of stuff throughout this event. We had scores in the 90s for all 4 categories, which is pretty cool. There was several different start gates on this so it's a new venue, several different start gates. They had switched it from the Simcaron to Lac Noir, I believe is what it was called. And I think they've signed a long-term deal with Val Thorens. And I think this is where they might try to host the Olympics in 2030. I know they're moving towards that, and there's big planning in the books already. But like I said, so this was a pretty fun event. Bluebird POW Day. Riders were getting some deep turns. So with ski men in the top 3, we had Martin Bender, Valley Rayner, former Freeride World Tour champion, and then Marcus Gogan, who came in 2nd overall behind Max Hitzig last year. So Martin starts the comp off with that big 360 drop right off the top. It looks like he kind of wheelied out a little bit. I was talking to someone the next day at Surefoot, actually. Shout out Surefoot, sponsor of this show. So I was in there actually getting a little bit of boot work done, and they had the FWT up on the screens, and I was talking to one of the techs, Drew, who actually works with the Whistler Freeride Club. And he was like, I don't know if I agree with that score. And it was fresh after. It was like the morning after. He's like, you backslapped out of the top. How do you get a 90 with a backslap? So I ended up watching it again. It was more of like a wheelie out than it was a backslap. I don't think he touched his back to the snow, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think he was gonna get docked too much on that. Like you said, like if your body doesn't touch, even if you see your base, you're allowed to like ride your tails. Then of course, if someone does the exact same thing and don't do it, yeah, it's gonna be slightly better, but they're not gonna dock you incredibly hard for that type of move. I know because I've done it.
Oh yeah, exactly. So you know these things. You probably had these conversations. So he hits that 360 drop with the big wheelie out, hits another one. So he's basically spins both ways, which is going to add all those extra points as well. And then another little medium air, super smooth, fast run, just like you'd expect from Martin. He's just like an energy packed little, ball of tricks. It's fun to watch that guy ski because he's just like, he's just kind of like wired. It's like, he's almost like a little coiled spring, I like to think.
Oh yeah.
Right. He just, at any point can just go pop off and do something impressive. And it's pretty cool too, because he's so, we were talking about this being in France, and the French riders kind of dominated this competition with French riders, I think, on every podium. We've got, well, except for the ski men, but you've got Martin Benders from Verbier, which is just down the road. So, Swiss, French riders are really doing well this year. So that was really impressive from Martin. His first win on the Freeride World Tour.
Yeah, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's been waiting for it, and there's a bunch of riders that we talk about with Derek all the time. Every single one of these athletes can win an event if it's their day. If it's their day, it's their day.
Definitely.
So then second place we got Valley Rainer, who I always see as kind of like, he's a champion, but I always kind of still see him as kind of an underdog. I don't know why. He's just so mild mannered, and he's not overly flashy, but he's so proficient in his tricks, and he knows what he's going to do. And when he puts a run down that he wants, it's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, he really lets the skiing speaks for him. It's really cool. And I don't know, maybe it comes from his coach, Heusel, who had that sort of temper himself. So maybe that rubbed off on him. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, one of my favorite rounds of the day, I think, there for
like
for
just
that.
right
he
at the
did
top.
that same long traverse, right? Yeah.
Right at the very top there. Yeah. So he started off with that acid drop off the cornice straight to like
pole whack to acid.
Yeah, the NAR. It's right. Yeah. We got to give credit for the NAR points. Get NAR points before he dropped in for sure. And then that.
And it was actually a legit pole whack, since he needed to cut the corners a little bit to actually see.
No, exactly. Functional and fashionable.
Yeah.
So he had that sweet acid drop right in that 360, stomped, and it was fast too, because he had to get through. Quick cut over, big 360, had another little shifty mid mountain, and then another huge 360 down at the bottom. He just kind of floated over that whole cliff band.
I didn't think he was going to clear that. It looked like on camera, it was like, does he have the speed for this? Because you could see the whole cliff before he hit it, and it's like, oh god.
It looked like he took off before the lip too. Where visually it looks like where the lip would be, kind of took off in front of it and just kind of floated over this whole thing, and just was like, But you're watching, you're like, oh yeah, right on. Okay,
and he opened that, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so,
going that direction, and again back to the powder. It's like, oh, that's a huge question mark standing on the start, because you don't know how much that snow is going to eat up your speed, and you're going to end up at your cliff. And it's like, am I just going to fall off this thing, or am I actually going to float?
Yeah, or lose both skis and end up tomahawking. But it's interesting too, because you can do a run and have 2 or 3 airs where you're landing into soft snow and find your way a little bit farther down the slope, and then all of a sudden you're expecting that same pushback or that same absorption, and then you hit and it's stiffer or it's softer.
Right.
So your mind and your body are ready for a specific landing, and all of a sudden it's different, and then you're toast.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like it. I like equally shitty the whole way.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Can you remember an event or a specific day where you had that happen in an event for yourself?
Oh, 100%. Most of the time, not too unexpected. They've seen like, a week ago I had this rain up to this exact level here on the mountain, and riding it, you could like, oh, there it is. But so not 100% unexpected. Worst couple of instances have been when the landing is basically sloughed out from ski ninjas or previous riders, and you just, you see that it's not going to be, usually you see that it's not going to be as nice as you hope, but it's like it kind of messes with you, like, oh, I was meant to shut down speed right after this, but now I'm on ice, you know.
Mm-hmm. And there's also
Yeah.
the fact that he said he opened it up too. Like if he had gone in there second, and like we saw a couple people eat it after hitting bomb holes. So it's like, well, you know, what do we do with that? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just kind of, you have to kind of hope for the best.
Hope for the best, and
Hope
yeah,
for the best.
there's no saying like, oh, I wish I was earlier or later. It's like, well, you're gonna get the better takeoff for sure if you go later, and you can redirect. But it's like those bomb holes were nasty that day. They set up real quick and took a lot of people out.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, but not for Valley, because he
No.
found his found his own route, and it also helps when you drop in third or fourth, I should say. So he dropped in just after after Carl, and then really worked on enjoying some of that deep pow down at the end there. Yeah, he was working through that deep snow at the bottom, as Derek says, trench work.
For sure.
Coasting through and enjoying. And then we had in third place, Canada, Whistler Freeride Club, Marcus Gogan, who I think every single run that he does is an adventure, like a full-on adventure. Nobody really knows what he's going to do, because he's able to do things that nobody thinks is possible, that not really many other people can do. His ability to turn on a dime, to change direction at full speed in a place where you probably shouldn't, I think he's the best at that I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, after his backflip here, I don't think a lot of people realize it that watching, but the hardest move on that day was the turn after his huge backflip.
Oh,
that shut down, redirect, turn, and what came after that. It's like, that is so hard to do. Trudell is pretty good at this stuff, especially in bad snow. But yeah, that's such a hard move to do. I remember Hugo Harrison talked about this a lot too, and judged a lot on it. Like he would score that way higher than a double backflip.
Because
and I agree.
Yeah, and like where he did it too. So he like backy over the cornice, and his landing was above big exposure. So he's going full speed, floating through the air, lands, and is able to, like, the strength of this kid has got to be immense.
Yeah.
Because
amazing run. And surprised every time. It's like, I mean, that backflip at the top is somewhat obvious when you have seen it, when you've seen someone do it. Like, oh, that's probably what I would have gone for. Yeah, it's huge. But I know I would probably have looked at that, because like, I know I need to do something big and I can't do a backflip, so it would be that. But then I don't know. And, that turn he does, it's just... Even it surprises me every time.
Every time. It's like, where's he going? What's he doing? Oh my God. Like, remember in Andorra, what it was last year or 2 years ago, or is that first year that he was on after he won the juniors, and he was put onto the Freeride World Tour in Andorra, and he had that, like, it's kind of becoming one of his trademarks, where it's like, all right, I'm going to land here, but I got to go hit that cliff that's a little bit over to the right, and I have to do like a 90-degree turn at full speed. And somehow he manages to do it, and goes into it looking like he's off balance, and then hucks a 720 or a double of something. Yeah. It's mind blowing to watch. So Marcus doing what he does ends up in third place, which is
I wonder, did he have some control issues? Is that he, because I think like the line itself and what he did should be enough for like a really high score, but maybe I don't know if he had some control issues.
Potentially, maybe not as smooth. Martin Bender with a 91.67, we had Valley with an 89.67, and then Marcus with an 88.67. So it could be maybe looking like he has a little bit of control issues, but like I said, his version of control versus everyone else's version of control may be very, very different, right?
I would say those control issues would have meant like full-on crash for half of that field. Not to take anyone down, but it's just he is amazing. That's more that.
He's a freak in nature.
Yeah. He really painted himself into a corner now, because now speaking for me, now I'm expecting him to do unexpected things. huge shut down and with something crazy that I've never seen before every single time. Otherwise, I'm going to be so disappointed.
Right. And
That's the corner he painted himself into.
Do you think the judges have like a little bias about that, kind of maybe in the
100%.
in the back of their mind too? So if he doesn't do something spectacular, they're gonna judge him maybe a little bit lower than if someone else did the same line.
I can't speak for what the judges do these days, but exactly that has happened in the past. My wife, Jackie Peso, she's famous for hucking the biggest cliffs on the contest.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of contests she doesn't. And there has been instances when the judges come up like, we actually expected you to go bigger here. So, so she got judged against herself. She like arguably still had a better run, but since she didn't do what expected from her, she kind of lost points.
Right.
And I mean, if you see Candide Tovex show up on a competition and he does 0 tricks, you'll be like, "Aw,
yeah, come on, man, yeah, right." and then I'd be standing at the bottom with my autograph book, being like, "Hey, man, how come you didn't? Can you sign my? Can you sign my book, please?"
Yeah, right. I mean that definitely happened. And then Tudell, always 100% in control. If he has a little wobble and loses an arm behind his back, he's gonna get docked more than people that does it a little more regularly.
Right, just because he's always just so tight, right? It's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think that's something we've discussed yet. Is just being judged against yourself based on your previous performances. Interesting. Well, it's definitely
it happens, and I mean the judges are only human, and I mean if they used to see you in a certain way and you're not in that way, they know that something's up. So I mean, fair enough, I guess, but still.
Interesting. I wonder if, I guess that's something to ask. That would be something to talk to them about for sure. So that was at the top 3. Like rounding out the rest of the event, I think, I mentioned Wei Tian had a spectacular run, big corner drop 360, the Screaming Seaman, which was pretty sweet. Shout out to Xander Goldman for bringing that back a couple of years ago.
Bringing that in.
The big Screaming Seaman, another 360, and then the big backy into the bomb hole. And if I'm not mistaken, it might have been into Valley's bomb hole. Was it that side? I know we went way right.
I think he went the same. Yeah,
it may have been that same spot that Valley went, which I'd have to double check. But
yeah, that was a jaw-dropping run. It was so good, all the way there, high energy.
And that's 2 runs for him, unfortunately. But it could have been fantastic. It just didn't quite go his way. Another really amazing run from Ben Richards. Lower score, an 80, but just so smooth. He's kind of like we were talking about. He's kind of taken up the mantle from, say, like A. Paul and Drew Tabke, kind of like similar. But I'd also like to throw in maybe a little bit of Turdell in there because he's just fall line,
that cat-like,
so smooth. Like you watch this, like that lofty cross court floaty line, and everything he does, he just lands, and there's not a hair out of place. He's perfectly balanced. He lands it. It's just really nice to watch.
And that's gonna be his little curse because he makes hard stuff because he still skis a really hard line, but it makes it look too easy. You want to be flailing a little bit, like, oh my God, I'm holding on for dear life.
You think that'll hurt him in the long run?
I'm going to go back to, like, I've seen that happen in the past. Right. Like, I think the judges have evolved with everyone else and, like, starting to see that pattern as well. And that's why we started doing timing, because some people looked slow, but they were just so freaking solid that they looked slow, but were actually way faster.
Right.
If, sometimes you compare, if someone do identical lines, you might use the stopwatch to differentiate the two.
Would you suggest that, say if that's something that seems to be happening, would you suggest that they go and lobby for themselves or go and have discussions with the judges and say, hey, like, what's going on here? Like, I think this should have been higher. Why did you do this? And be like, all right, you can advocate for themselves and be like, hey, look, man, just because this is my style doesn't mean that I'm not doing something crazy.
Right, 100%.
Would you suggest the riders go and have those conversations with the judges? Would it be positive for them, or would it be kind of a negative effect in the long run?
I mean, it's gonna depend on how you carry yourself in that discussion. Don't do it in the bar at the night off. You sleep on it for 2 nights, then you bring the discussion up. Preferably, maybe even at the next event when you meet and you have the lobby drink. going into the event, the judges are gonna look at the end of the day and feel like there's a job well done, which it is. And so if you don't speak up, they're not gonna think twice about it, unless there's been like a huge controversy. Then they're gonna get it automatically. But it's good to bring it up from time to time. We've actually in the past have instances where all the riders kind of came together. It's like, hey guys, we saw something. We believe that the riders are not on board with how you're judging this. This was way back when. It was a run with like a ton of backslaps, but the guy went huge. And the riders were like, well, that was cool and all, but you need to land your stuff. Otherwise, we're all going to just go huge and see what happens.
Yeah.
So that very quickly shifted how the judges looked at something like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is more subtle, of course, but discussions are always good, and the judges are always open to learn and adjust.
There's always in everything. There's evolution in anything, right? Things are going to change.
Yeah.
Like even just specifically to the very obvious point is, from 5-6 years ago or more when you were here, like you and Imar and that kind of crew, it was like point it straight, fast, and big. And now it's like, well, have you got a double? Do you know what I mean? It's
right.
That blend into from freeride into freestyle is that big shift and evolution over the last half a decade. So obviously judging will have to change and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to kind of to see and discuss and kind of see how it goes. I think we'd like to get a judge or two, maybe get Lolo on the show and kind of see what's the state of judging in freeride right now.
Yeah.
See what happens. I can tell that you still have a little PTSD, some judging PTSD.
100%.
You're like, I can tell right there. You just bit your tongue hard. You're like, don't say it.
No, but it's I've been judging freeride competition too, and it's so hard not to like get defensive if you get criticized. But if you get like, hey, I'm just curious, this is my style and stuff like that, that would work, And
don't go in with guns blazing. Go in with it.
Which happens, humble. Unfortunately, more often than not. There's guns blazing and there's frustration. Way back when, I mean, there were fights, like literal fist fights, judges and riders. I've seen in Russia. That was a good one.
Of all places, hey.
Of all places.
I'll have to get you to tell me that story off the air.
Yeah. We'll do a behind the scenes for real last 15 years of the Free World Tour.
I love it. Are you playing the fun bet?
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah, you should join. Go sign up for the fun bet and come join our league. We got the Freeride Guide Fun Bet League.
Okay.
Just for some bragging rights, and then we're getting some merchandise developed. We're gonna have some T-shirts and some hats and stuff. So I know like Peak Performance is giving out like a trip to Verbier, but then like a T-shirt and a hat. So we're gonna kind of do the same thing. We just want people to come and play along with us for some bragging rights, and we're gonna announce like who's done well and who hasn't. So at the end of this episode. Cool. We'll announce kind of what the standings are. I actually haven't checked. I think I did really well this episode or this event.
The last time I did this, I did terribly. So we'll see.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, not well at all. So we always tell people like, hey, if you think you're better or know more than Derek and I, and now Reina, sign up and prove it. Sign up and prove it. Hey, thanks for joining us, man. It's good to chat with you. And I'm sure you'll be watching the Kicking Horse event. I guess it'll be during the evening, I guess, for you. It'd be on like right now, I guess. So that kind of is a nice time for you. You can actually have dinner, put tour down, probably watch the event.
Yeah, we never get those bad timings that you guys do. Not really.
No. I've been up twice now from midnight till 5 a.m. the last two events. It is what it is.
I couldn't do it. I haven't slept in 3 years.
You haven't slept in 3 years? Why, you got a 3-year-old or something?
Yeah, I do.
Well, anyways, hey man, thanks for joining us. And we'll probably check in with you again at some point this season, just to get the expert insight. And thanks, man. I'm glad to hear life's doing well in your retirement. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon. Take care, buddy.
right. Thanks to Reine. Thanks, buddy, for coming on the show. Welcome back anytime. So you had a note about Martin Bender's run.
Oh yeah, I blew it. I totally blew it in the broadcast. I thought I saw him spin both directions. Looking back, he definitely didn't. Luckily, the judges saw, what really happened, so I didn't give him credit for doing that. But what I realized is they switched from the long lens to the drone, and the difference in perception, just kind of tricked my eyes. So that was a bummer.
Was it kind of like when you use your front facing camera versus the back facing camera and it reverses it?
Yeah, kind of.
You know what I'm saying? So like that, that guy just spun left. No, he didn't. But the camera made it look like
yeah.
it.
When the camera's above him, it looks like he's spinning the other way than when it's in front. And I should have picked it up. I mean, I'm supposed to be good at this, but it was that sucked for sure for me to miss that. And I missed Ross's entry into the face, that nose butter 3 or 180 to switch 1, however you want to describe it. It was kind of right on the cusp of both of those. And I guess in our defense, the start 1 is in the shade. Anything that's in the shade when we're watching on this little tiny screen in the sun, like we're in a tent, but there's a ton of light. It's really hard to see detail. And that was also kind of unexpected. I thought he had just done a 360, and it definitely was not that. So yeah, two balls in the water on that one. So to all the fans that expect me to know what I'm talking about when we're in the broadcast, I will do better next time. Maybe.
There you go. There you go. Well, and so, that could have brought up, obviously the broadcasters and the judges, they're separate, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying isn't what they're hearing.
They don't hear our commentary at all.
They're seeing their own thing. So, even though we may have been like, oh, he didn't do a spin both ways. No, well, his score should have been lower. Well, that's not really how it works, because you and them are separate. So the judges see it separately. I did have somebody, I mentioned it with Reine, thought that maybe Martin backslapped that first big 3. But when you go back and look at it, he just wheelies out of it. His back doesn't hit. He just wheelies out, stays on his feet.
Yeah, stage 1 at worst. Like there's no real touchdown. He's just riding the tails of his skis. And honestly, just to have that be all that happened to him on something that big to that flat is pretty impressive. Like that's athletic. I think most people would have got thundered onto their backs there. So solid. Yeah, I mean that was a huge run, and his first World Tour win. 22 junior world champ, qualified onto the tour immediately, and like definitely showing that he is part of this new wave of skiers that have the full complete skill package. Good skiing, super bold, all the tricks, and able to put it all together kind of at will, regardless of conditions, really young enough not to care.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. This rubber, those guys, it's shocking to see how hard they land sometimes and just pop up.
Yeah, I mean, I've been joking for a while that some of these young, the prefrontal cortex doesn't develop fully until you're 25. So a lot of these guys have essentially kids' brains and men's bodies, and that is a lethal combination for this sport. They're super strong, their skill set is dialed, and they still have no concept of consequence. It's epic for us, because they're just so good and so brave and bold in their decision making. And they have the skills to pull it off. So yeah, I'm loving where it's at on the tour right now.
I think I'm gonna have to clip that, Derek. That's amazing. All right, well, let's get on to ski women, going in order of their competition. Like I said earlier, you can follow along on freerideworldtour.com, and as we're talking, you can actually go to each rider's individual run, and you can go straight to it and watch it again. So another really spectacular competition. Started off with Astrid, the top spot, with a 93.67, launching an air at the top, the big solid backflip, great line, another solid lower air. And I will tell you, we haven't mentioned this yet, but four categories. There's a rider in the 90s, which is really, really cool. It didn't it wasn't like a ski men's that we had at the end of last season, where every week there was like 3 or 4 or 5 guys in the 90s. There was just the one. We got 2 in the 90s for ski women. We had 1 in the 90s for snowboard men and for snowboard women, which is great. It might have been the highest score ever for snowboard women, if I'm not mistaken. But we can get to that in a minute. But for now, ski women. So we started off with Astrid with a great event, following it up from the first event, which she did a fantastic job as well.
Yeah, that was sick. Like Astrid and Justine, with big backflips off of, consequential features. And I think the difference maker for the judges was the feature that was flipped. Astrid's was higher on the face. It had more below it. And I think that was the real difference maker. Justine's was just a little bit lower down. It was kind of one of the last hits in her run. And don't take anything away from it, right? She still scored in the 90s, but at some point you got to rank these runs. And I think that was the defining factor in putting Astrid above Justine, which to me was totally fair. Like both of those runs were so sick and really, really solid, and seeing the level, the freestyle coming into it, like big flips, not off windlaps, like off cliffs. Like we're headed in a very exciting direction in this category, because it's like it's shaping up. I mean, the overall rankings right now, those two are tied.
Yeah, they just swap positions after the
they
first
each
comp.
have a first and a second, and both of them did backflips in both comps. Like rowdy, it's so cool to see where that's at, and to see this kind of potential battle developing that we may see go through the season. And I mean, yeah, the ranking, like you got those two sitting on 18,000 points, and Ari in third with 8,000. Like they are running away with it after 2 events.
And then Ari bringing back her trademark 360. We haven't seen a spin for a while in the ski women's group. They've been transitioning to the backflip, so I think we're going to have maybe see a little bit of both. Continuing on with the top 3, Justine with a 90.67, Lena with a great run in 84.33, great line choice, several big airs. She went bigger on the middle cliff than both Ellie and Justine, which was the one before Justine backflipped. So the top 5 is Astrid, Justine, Lena Kohler. Then you have former champions Ellie, Elizabeth Gerritsen, and Ariana Takomi. Like it's stacked. And then you just look at what's happened the last couple of weeks, like with Lily and their giant backflip that first event. Like I'm excited that there's 5 stops before the cut this year, because we've got 3 more. These 2 could be the throwaways for people.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, there's definitely people that are now where the rankings are looking at that. Because yeah, like Lily's got 2 crashes now, but one of them was on a very possibly winning run, with that huge flip. Elizabeth Gerritsen, she went back up after her run, and the cliff that Justine flipped, she 3'd it. And I talked to her after, and she's like, yeah, so the 3 goes. I should have done it. And she kind of had it in her head, but because she was very early in the field, and she was like putting the takeoff in there, decided not to do it. But then was like, oh, I should have done it. She watched Justine flip it, went back up and did it, and it went fine. So it's just funny that you were talking about 360s there, because that's in Ellie's head for sure. I'm not sure that she's as comfortable flipping, but she's really good at spinning. So she's probably going to be hungry to bring that into her runs, and then it just like the sky's the limit. Like you get half the field doing all kinds of freestyle tricks in big bad runs. Who benefits from that? We do.
Yeah, exactly. So she went after the comp and just was like, it was bugging her.
Yeah.
She just was like, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. That's the spirit, that she's got. Like she doesn't let these things go. and wasn't willing to walk away wondering. So went back up when everybody else was headed to Après, and hiked back to the top, skeeter line with a 360 off that drop.
Oh,
Yeah, pretty sick. It makes me very excited for where we're heading.
oh, that's good to know, because that's dangerous. Like a determined Elizabeth Gerritsen, I think, is a dangerous Elizabeth Gerritsen.
Oh, totally. Yeah, you absolutely can't count her out. And she's moved herself up into the, call it the good side of the cut, with that result, like after the catastrophic tomahawk in Spain, to put a keeper like a fourth. She wants more, 100%. But that's still a keeper result, and now she's in a place where we've seen her launch from low down the standings and win the tour. So yeah, you cannot count her out.
No, absolutely not. She's don't don't sleep on her at all. I'd like to talk a bit more about Lena's run. Like, she's had a couple great comps. She had that unfortunate crash last week, but it looked like she was going at it hot. So she got that redemption today, her first podium. What a run for a rookie.
She's so good. She is so good, and she's hungry for it. And she was funny because when we're at the face check, they let everyone go to the top, and we're looking down off the cornice, and I don't think the broadcast really did it justice in how gnarly it looked from the top, like that big vertical drop in. But she was looking around, and she's like, everyone said that the World Tour venues are the same as the Challenger venues. And she's like, this isn't the same at all. So she was definitely getting a bit of the rookie nerves going there. But she handled it like a champ. She was able to put that away and just let her skiing speak for her. She's got that ski racing background, so the technique is on point. But again, like, real brave in her line choices, skiing the exact line she meant to, and with pace. Like you said, she took that middle air bigger than everybody. And absolutely clean landing. Like, yeah, I think she's not a huge trick monster, although she has been skiing park a bunch, like going up to the resorts around Innsbruck that have those really nice park setups. So she's certainly working on it, which I have a lot of respect for. Like, work on your weaknesses, and you'll be dangerous. And that's for sure where she's at. And she skis with Valerie Rayner a lot, who's got a ton of great tricks. So yeah, good people in her corner, and a great attitude. And yeah, a young rookie like that, I think the sky's the limit for what we can see for her. And I would say, if we get on bigger faces with good snow conditions, where the freestyle is a bit less the focus, then we'll see her continue to be right up at the pointy end.
I love how that you mentioned the cornice, specifically for a couple of reasons. One, Ari acid dropped off it. So maybe that kind of shows you the little bit of a difference between veteran and rookie, right? So Ari dropped right, acid dropped off the cornice, super smooth, went into her trademark 360. Valley Rayner, who you just mentioned, was getting some NAR points at the top. I love how you mentioned that, which is fantastic.
He was so stoked on that. He was like, "Oh, you gave me NAR points, thanks, man."
I would love to start seeing some of these athletes start trying to figure it out and like sneak them into the competition somehow, but like have like a secret game of NAR in the background. But yeah, it was a great comp. I think Astrid proved herself, or announced her arrival on the scene last year, and now she's like, all right, I want this title. She's not messing around, and I think we're gonna have a really exciting battle to the finish. Specifically, as you mentioned, her and Justine are tied for the lead after 2 events, just swapping places.
Yeah, and 10,000 points ahead of third. Like, that's wild. But we still have 3 more to go, so nothing's decided yet. I mean, 3 more before the cut, sorry, right. and then the finals where there's more points available. So yeah, I mean, you can't count anybody out, but it is definitely starting to crystallize a little bit that battle at the front. I mean, Astrid wants it. Justine's got one. Justine also has, honestly, more experience than anybody in this field in performing under pressure, right? Like, let's give you know, the reality of the situation. Like there's pressure at the Freeride World Tour, winning medals at the Olympics twice and multiple overall World Cups.
Yeah, years and years on the world tour, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the pressure there is different and heavier. And she's like, she knows how to do it. Her mental game it's got to be the strongest in the entire field, men and women. Just from the experience that she's got at the absolute pinnacle of sport and competition. So she's not gonna let
Which
go
is so
easily.
wild because when you see her, she's always just so bubbly and like light and joyous, and it doesn't look like really anything's bothering her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think she's coming at this with the best possible attitude, which is this is a shift in career, and it's only for fun. Now, of course, she's competitive about it and she wants to win, but the she doesn't have pressure on her to perform other than to perform in a way that she's proud of. And I think for a high level athlete, there's a certain amount of freedom in that feeling, like psychological freedom, where you don't have like the crushing weight of a nation, you know, on your back and sponsors and all of that stuff. Like she has the competitive drive, but freeride to her is like this break from the insane pressure that she experienced in moguls. And you know what? Whether that's true or not, that's how she's viewing it.
Right.
And that's a veteran athlete psychological move. If you can view it in a way that allows you to perform loose and free, then you're going to compete at a higher level because you let the pressure go. And like I said, the pressure's there, for sure, but she's looking at it in a way, it's all about perception, right? Our brains are wired to perceive things however, and if you can trick it into perceiving it in a way that allows you to be loose and free and see it as fun, then you ski better. And if she skis better, then the rest of the field needs to watch out because let's keep in mind, she's now done this for a total of 1 year and 3 comps. That's her entire freeride experience. And she's got a title and sitting tied for first already with that limited experience. So realistically, it's only going to get better.
It's crazy. And it's like, you know, what you were saying there makes a lot of sense. And then, you know, to counter that a little, you know, you'd have to ask her, right? Sure, maybe she doesn't have the pressure, but she's still a competitor. Like she's competed her whole life. You don't get to win a gold and a silver medal in the Olympics unless you're a competitor, unless it drives you. You got that fire to win, right? So I do agree with you that she doesn't have maybe it's not as stressful, and she's able to be like, oh, I know this is a little easier for me with returns of like the overall pressure. But I wouldn't doubt that she puts that pressure on herself to win because that's what athletes are. Athletes are a different breed. I'd love to pick her brain and see and kind of see, hey, how is this? You know, we talked to her, you know, when she first started this, but I'd like to see how she approaches these competitions and how she sees them. Right?
Well, I mean, I'm with her, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
I know, and that's why I'm saying this. This isn't something that I've made up. It's not that she doesn't want to win. I'm not saying that she's not competitive and driven to win, but she's able to release the external pressure from outside of herself and not worry about that because she's proven, right? She's proven on the Olympic stage, the World Cup stage, and she has a freeride world tour title already.
Yeah.
So it's a proven fact that she's good at this. So she can put the pressure on herself to put down runs that she's proud of, but she's not pressured to put down results again for her country, for medals, for the Olympics. Like those are different, right? There's outcome goals and there's process goals. She's really focused on the process goals with the idea that if she follows the process, the outcome will take care of itself. If she skis a run that she's proud of, it will be scored well. So that's what she's focusing on.
So let me ask you this, to continue on with this kind of line of thinking is, you know, she's done so well that first year where she kind of got right out in front of things. Now she's got some really, really tight competition. This could maybe add a little bit of that extra pressure because now she's looking over her shoulder. Well, she's not looking over her shoulder. She's looking right beside her right now. Do you know what I'm saying? So it could be interesting to see how they go back and forth this season. Maybe that extra pressure gets put on her where she's like, I want to win this thing. And I've got some real like serious competition here.
Well, and that's the best thing for us. That is the best thing for us as fans of this sport. If pressure is coming from another competitor who is also kicking ass, then we win, because then the show is, the overall show is just so much fun to watch, and watching them, one up each other, and knowing that there are two other world champions in that field who also know how to get it done. I mean, how cool would it be to have a 4-way race into Verbier where anybody can take the title? Like, that's what I want. I'm sure you too, and everybody listening. Like, we all want that.
Absolutely.
That like super intense neck and neck race coming down to the finish. So who knows? And I mean, we got these rookies. There's like you said, nothing's decided yet. And we may see, because we've definitely seen it before, Justine and Astrid start to really push their limits, and maybe, they get a couple where they go a little too big, or Astrid's like, you know what? I did a double in Nanda. I'm going to do a double in the FWT. Maybe she stomps that, maybe not. Who knows? Justine's, super comfortable doing double backflips. In the moguls, she was doing cork sevens. Like, give her the right takeoff, but it's different, natural takeoffs for sure. But man, like, I mean, we can go down this rabbit hole for hours, but it is such a great time to be a fan of this, because the level is insane. And we're seeing 2 pull away right now, but I wouldn't put money against really anybody else in that field either. We get onto some bigger faces, like watch out for Molly. Dude, Chloe Hare, like what she's showed so far, her tech ability, we're going to see her, I think, kind of following in the like, oh, she's going in weird zones that nobody else does, like Molly, and putting down some mind blowers as well. And while she was at La Clusaz after Spain before Val Thorens, she was doing huge backflips off cliffs. So like, it's all there to play for. And this field is just like so sick right now.
Yeah, I love it. So now we're moving into the meat of the season. The first couple of events, the rookies got their feet wet. They're trying to understand the whole rigmarole of the travel and the media and the, just the whole circus of the tour. That can be overwhelming, which can take away from your focus from an event. So once they start getting used to that, maybe that starts, bringing it back to their competition. Maybe they start focusing a little bit, but maybe they just had a bad run. Who knows? But that's the excitement about having 6 events this year, as we're going to see a lot more really exciting stuff. So that's women's ski. Astrid, Justine, Lena, 1, 2, 3. Moving on to snowboard women. The queen returns to just visit her title, her throne, I guess, just to check in on it. It's like a vacation home for her now. It's like, I'm going to go do this thing, but I'm going to come make sure that, it's been dusted and it's fine. It's just waiting here for me. So Marianne Herty with, I don't know if it is or not. I'd have to check, with a 95. Is that the highest female or women's snowboarding run ever?
There were a couple that Aaron Sauvé put down last year, Fieberbrunn and Verbier, that were in that range, but I don't know exactly. But that run was immaculate. It was so fast. It was so aggressive. She just pounded right off the highest part of every single air, every feature that she had. Never even had a hair out of place. Like, there was not a moment where you're like, whoa, or, like a little balance. No, nothing. Just clean, pure, fast, aggressive free ride. She looked so confident. So confident on her board. And it was clear that she is still the boss. There was no question. Like, sometimes it's hard for the judges. I don't think that one was hard for the judges.
No, she looked different.
Yeah.
It looked different. It didn't look like she was in the same category as everyone else, to be honest with you. Like,
yeah, well, she's not. She's in the 4-time world champion category.
Fair enough. That's absolutely true. So I'm just looking at Erin's results here. She got a 90 in the first final last year.
So that was Fieberbrunn.
And in Verbier, I'm looking for it here. It doesn't say right off the bat. I'd have to look into that, but I don't know. I don't think that there's been I think that's the highest snowboard women's score. We'll have to check with the tour, but phenomenal. So last week, we were setting up the exciting challenge between Marion and her proteges, Naomi Aki, Anna Martinez. In second place, we have Naomi, who was absolutely ripping. Like, what a run. So we said that Marion separated herself, but from the rest of the pack, yes, she did, but not quite as much from Naomi as the rest. She had an 88.33. In my opinion, watching her, legend in the making. I honestly thought it could have easily been a 90-point run as well. And we have a Derekism. We had a bunch this episode. I'm gonna see if I can pull them out. But you said the pressure is for tires, and she doesn't seem to be under it.
Yeah, that was so sick. Like, she lives in Val Thorens. Everywhere she went, people were mobbing her, like, "Oh my God, I hope you do good." And she just seemed to shrug it off. No issues. The run was sick. Marion proved that the mentor is still, in her place.
The queen still has her crown.
Yeah. Maybe we can start looking at Noemi as the
heir apparent.
Heir apparent. Yeah, exactly. As you said, legend in the making. Like, she is good. Really, really, really good. And unfortunately, I guess in this one we didn't see some of the other heavy hitters that we know, like Erin Sauvé and Michaela Davis-Meehan, put down the runs that they wanted. I would have loved to have seen, if Michaela landed that huge double at the top, what the rest of her run would have held and how that would have scored relative to Marion and Noemi. Because that was probably the biggest move of the snowboard women's category, like standalone move, that big double, but she couldn't quite hold it, which is kind of right up Michaela's street. Like, she's going to do the rowdiest thing out there, and if it works, she'll win. But
if you watch to the end of her run, so you crash, you get up, you still go. She ended up launching a huge bonus air at the bottom. She had the cornice to that really good line, the big double, shook it off, and then she hucked a big bonus air at the bottom that not really anybody hit, just cuz.
Well, because it's after the judging line.
Oh, like, was it?
Yeah, that wasn't even in.
Just cuz.
That was purely for her. Yeah, and that thing was huge to dead flat, and like complete crater into the snow. Yeah, that was not even in the comp. That was after the competition run, and just like get down to the finish. Just sent that one, for the soul, which I respect so much. That's a pure snowboarder, like, who's just like, yeah, but it's powder. Like, why wouldn't I?
See, that's one of my favorite things about watching these comps is seeing who takes advantage of it when they can. Like I said before, Michael Monn's one of those guys. Michaela is one of those guys. Just seeing who takes advantage instead of just cruising across the flat. Who's going to slash an extra little pow turn and milk a face shot here or there,
Yeah, send a huge air.
So Naomi with a phenomenal run, and then Nuria, who has really established herself as one of the most consistent, like, strong riders in the field as well, with the third place. Great start, a really steep line that she rode, and was super committed to it.
Yeah, I like that, and I really like that that Nuria was able to shake off that big crash in Spain, because she smashed herself. She spent a night in hospital. Like, it was pretty full on.
Did she?
Yeah. So she was able to kind of shake that off. She's been on a roller coaster over the last few years. Like, she got caught in the avalanche in Verbier in the Challenger event, and then came back to Verbier first stop last year and won. And then this one, like this year, demos herself at her home comp in Spain, and then comes back, boom, shakes it off, and is on the podium in the next event. So yeah, solid mental game on her, and obviously the snowboarding speaks for itself. Like, it was really good. Again, fast. Like, I think we're at a point now where in that snowboard women's category, like there's no more you land your run, you're on the podium. Like you got to put the pedal down and give it. And the judges are rewarding that, which I really like. You know, they're rewarding that committed approach. And yeah, Nuria, like sick. She put herself now back in the mix in the rankings, which is sweet, and she'll be stoked on that because it was obviously when you fall like multiple times in a run at home, that's hard on the body, hard on the ego. So to be able to shake that off and put herself on the podium, I thought was very cool.
Yep, I agree. So, you know, resilient. She's very, very resilient. You know, fourth place, we had Audrey Hibbert. She got caught in her slough as well. As we mentioned earlier, Jenna Keller ended up getting caught in her slough. So that's something with the powder on a powder day competition is just slough management. I talked to this with Reine a little bit. And I've actually seen Jenna on Instagram saying, "Hey, who wants to help me with my slough management? How do we learn out of this?" Did you have a chat with either of them about it?
Yeah, I talked to Jenna quite a bit after, and she was really she was bummed and a little bit embarrassed because she was on a cool line. You know, it was only her and John Penfield that went over there, and she had some big airs. She was skiing great, and she said she recognized that the slough was coming, but made a choice not to stop because she was in a comp, and it's a in the moment decision. You know, you got your comp mind on, you're like, oh, you can't stop. But if you know, obviously the clarity of hindsight, stop, let the slough clear, and then go across, because the speed that she was going at didn't allow her to clear that, like to get across the gully, because her next feature was across that gully. She wasn't going fast enough and wouldn't have been able to go across like that. You'd have to go down and across to race it and actually be ahead of it. And like you said, that much snow, like it gathers some momentum, and you saw it just toss their feet right out from under her. And
just look at Carl's run; the whole pocket ripped out, right?
Yeah, but you know, different because Carl was working diagonally from that upper mountain slough, and then when the second step of the double, or the pad of the double, ripped out, he stayed in the fall line and
he was gone, right?
Yeah, he was gone, right? He put it behind him. Jenna had to cross it to get to her next feature. So there's a little bit of line scoping and recognizing where the slough is going to go, and then in that moment of like, well, let it go, and then move across.
How would that? I wonder how that would be judged if she slowed down to a stop to let the slough go. Is that you know, looked fondly, looked positively by the judges because, hey, you know, it basically what I'm trying to say is it can hurt your fluidity score because you're stopping because you're being safe. Like, how does that adjust the judging?
So we talked to the judges about that. Jenna and I and a couple of the judges were like chatting after, and she asked that exact question. And they were like, no, we're not going to dock fluidity for good mountain management, right? Good mountain sense. And they said the same thing in Verbier last year. Like, if you need to let the slough go, let the slough go. Don't put yourself at risk to do something quicker to hold on to fluidity, but then have that happen, right? Get your feet blown out from under you. So she'll learn from that. Jenna's smart, yeah, and she's a great skier, and she was on a really good run. So just understanding that, like, yeah, this is a competition, but you are still skiing in a big fluid environment that has a lot of things going on. And slough is definitely one of them, and they're not going to zap somebody on fluidity for letting the slough move past before they go across, because what's the other option? Just let it hit you, like,
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's what she chose, and it was because of that, which is unfortunate, I guess. But she did say it was like, oh, I was in comp brain, like you can't stop in a competition. That's like a, you know,
It's a no-no.
It's like a commandment, like thou shalt not stop. And she kind of let that the mountain sense that she has just get pushed aside because of that competition mentality. And she paid for it with by getting her feet knocked out from under. And then she kneed herself in the face so hard on the next stair. She had a huge black eye. Like, I don't know if you saw in the finish, but her nose was bleeding.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so she I mean, but you're so rattled at that point. Like, anyway, yeah, slough management is definitely, it's an important part of this sport. And the judges are not going to ding an athlete for letting the slough clear before they move across.
It's good to know. That's good to
Yeah.
know. So that's kind of wraps up. Well, that was kind of a sidebar
Yeah.
into the stuff, into the snowboard women. We had, like I said, unfortunately, Audrey had a big air and a great release, but then got caught in her slough. But she ended up in fourth place. Still managed to turn that run around. Erin Sauve, who unfortunately got taken out by that double as well. I think you said she was rage hucking
After.
yeah. So that's snowboard women, Marion Harty, Naomi, and then Nuria. And what are the overall standings? Do you have them in front of you there?
Yeah, so Noemi is in first with 18,000. Pretty solid. Like a first, she's got a first and a second now. Audrey Hebert is in second. We got Anna down in third. Nuria, and that's where the cut sits right now. So Michaela, Estelle, and Aaron are on the downside of the cut, so they're going to be looking to come
Make
back
it happen.
swinging. Yeah,
Make it happen.
in these next events.
All right, let's move into snowboard men. Top three, we have Enzo Nilo has returned to the tour with his best event ever, with a win in his hometown. He's from Val Thorens as well, is he not?
Yeah, he's from the 12 LA, not directly in Val Thorens, but it's like
They'll take him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
it's like you live in Burnaby, but you say you're from Vancouver. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I live in this
100%.
suburb, but for you, I live in this place. Yeah, exactly. So good for him. That must have looked like he was pretty fired up. He actually when Victor came down, he's like, "Hey man, I'm in your place."
Yeah.
So that was really good to see. He had a 90.67 run, big 360, big backflip, big double, really fast and smooth. Like he rode as if he's been there before.
That was badass. It was a good run. And he rode pretty early in the field, and the judges loved it, and I back them on that completely. It was sick. Like, and it was funny too, because in the opening ceremonies, they were interviewing Victor, and then Victor handed the mic to Enzo. Usually they interview one person at the opening ceremonies. How you feeling? What are you doing? And Victor lives in Val Thorens, so they he's the hometown hero. And then they gave the mic to Enzo, and he was like, "All I want is to beat Victor."
And the crowd went wild.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So unreal that he did it. I mean, unreal. This guy he had his first go around in the Freeride World Tour. I think he crashed in every single comp, and now he's got a fourth and a win, and is leading the
Got the yellow bib.
Yeah. So,
big challenger win for him to make his way back on the tour. Like, he belongs here. And like we said before, he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's so cool. And he was like overjoyed with that win and the run that he did. All of these athletes, they want to put down runs that they feel proud of and then just leave it in the judges' hands. And he did that. And so
in spades. So congrats to Enzo.
Much credit.
Directly after him in the drop order was Remy Benamo with rookie. His first podium of his career. Big backside 360, another backflip, another 360. You're just spinning and flipping the whole way down with an 85.67. Another great result from him, and he's got to be happy with that to get one on the board.
Totally, yeah. He's a rookie, and he's in second overall now with two great results in his first two comps on the World Tour. I don't know what more you can say. Like, he's the real deal. And he's from like this tiny little resort in Switzerland. So he's just walking around at these events being like, wow, look at this, look at that. Like, he's so fired up, so stoked to be there. He's looked up to, guys like Victor and Camille Armand for his whole his whole life as a young snowboarder, and now he's competing with them and beating them. Like, it's pretty cool. He's in a good spot right now, with like a solid chunk of points. Oh, I guess he's in second, but he's tied with Victor for second. So even better, like the guy you've got posters of in your wall now, you're like
Yeah.
ranked equally with him on the Freeride World Tour. That's, yeah, very cool. He's living his best life right now.
Yeah, good for him. So I'm looking forward to seeing kind of more what he does. In third place, Michael Mon, no stranger to the podium with an 83.33. One of the guys like I said 2 or 3 times already in this episode, that he's the guy who probably enjoys skiing with Ride and Pal the most, I think, or it shows. I had him in third place on the fun bet. But he was absolutely pinned. Like, he's a technical wizard. Like, he's so technically sound with his board. He had it pinned, big back 3. He turned Michaela's cliff into a double. Just kind of went that little extra mile and just really did what he did. Like, ripped. He didn't have the greatest comp last week, but this is kind of what I expect from him.
You know what was crazy too about Mike is before we were waiting for avalanche control in the morning, and they let the riders go up for a lap to because it was like insane powder. And he came back down from that lap. He hit a rock under the snow and snapped his snowboard. Like, snapped it. And he was like, "Oh my God, I don't like I broke my board, like it's broken." And I was like, "Oh, well, it's pal, like maybe you can ride it." He's like, "No, I'm like really banking on my heel edge for my run. I don't know." So he was able to go all the way back to the hotel, get his other board, change the bindings, and come back. So imagine how flustered, right? Like, the whole time you're away, you're like, "Shit, am I gonna miss my run?" Like, there's a lot going on here. Made it back, went up there and put down a podium run. So, like, just wow.
Sometimes when that happens, it kind of takes away from the pressure of focusing too hard on the competition because you're dealing with all this other stuff. So
yeah,
just
you're
go
focused
into
on
it.
the trouble you're
Yeah,
in.
yeah. I sorted that out. Now that's relaxed, and now I just got to go and get into this. I haven't had time to think about it. I haven't had any time to overthink about it because I've been distracted. Now I can just go and put my run down.
Yeah, well, he did that, and it totally worked. So I just thought that was a cool little little side story there, that he was like, he was really kind of going through it in the morning, and had some added stresses that he didn't need, but he totally overcame it and put down a just totally bomb run.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Some other kind of notables in that one. John Powell doing what John Powell does. Just a film line in kind of a new zone. I think, like you said, Jenna Keller and John were like the only two that go over into that spot. Timmy hit some rocks.
Yeah,
Got tumbled a bit.
That was rough.
But could have been the best trick ever if he landed it.
Yeah. There's been a few of those this year, the Tom Pfeiffer
High side, yeah.
high side, and yeah, Tim getting tossed like that, and if he had just landed on his feet, that would have been insane.
Yeah.
That was scary.
But he's fine.
He's fine. Yeah. No, he's all good. Yeah, just a little bit lucky and a little bit good. But yeah, wow.
Well, that's good, man. I'm glad to see that he's okay. And it was another great comp, like I said, four categories. All 4 categories had someone in the 90s. It was amazing to watch. I'll give the tour huge credit because their streams have been on point this year. Super crisp, super clear, no delays, just exactly what you hope from an operations point of view. So if you ever talk to anybody before I tell them, like, give them that little backslap for me.
Yeah.
because they have done absolutely phenomenal. So that kind of rounds it out. What's the overall standings for men's snowboard right now?
Well, Enzo is sitting on top right now with Remy and Victor in a dead heat for second, and then John Powell in fourth, Timmy Schroeder in 5th. And I gotta throw this out because John Powell's vision of that other area was so cool. And the unfortunately the last air was just too hard. It was harder than he was expecting. He got sat down. But the judges had him if stomped in the if everybody stomps game. They had him winning. They loved that over there. And I was, when I watched Jenna go over, I was like, that it's cool over there. And then when I watched John go, I was like, why didn't more people go over there? Like, it was so sick. It was just different. He's got such a unique eye for line. He like huge 360. It was just so cool. Like so cool. But anyway, I just want to throw that out because they loved what he did, but he just wasn't quite able to hold on to it. But he's still sitting in 4th overall, and it's way tighter in snowboard men than any other category. Enzo sitting on top with 15,000, and John Penfield in 4th on 11,000. You get 10,000 for a win, so it's very wide open in snowboard men still.
It always seems to be the closest one, doesn't it?
Well,
if Victor's not running away with it.
Yeah.
Sorry. It has been in the past. It is again.
Yeah. And so that's, I mean, obviously, like, I'm sure Victor would be stoked to be running away with it again, but it does make it exciting for us as fans to watch all these guys and see whose day is it, on any given day, like the conditions being a little bit they're
different.
Not challenging. They're awesome.
They're different, unfamiliar.
Yeah, that presented
which is sad to say, but it's unfamiliar.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, Snowboard Men is in a really good place, and I think we're in for a show because there's just so many of them that if they get the day, they get the line and they pull it off, they can win. And you could see them; they're all gunning for it. Big tricks, huge airs. I mean, Cody Bramwell like overshooting the entire landing by 100 miles. Holden too, like both of those guys off that same feature.
Same backflip, like, same. What did you call the ride? The Val Thorens Bronco.
Yeah,
I think that's what you said.
Oh,
you had a lot of good. You had a lot
Yeah.
of good ones. You had a lot of good ones. And actually, to be honest with you, I was talking about how much I like people like skiing and slash and pow. Conrad Niven at the very end, just enjoying himself at the end of his run. Just slash and pow, having a good time. Like
That's a happy guy. That is a guy who loves snowboarding.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So that's the comp right there. It was definitely interesting. A lot of different things going on in there. We got to get to the Peak Performance Fun Bet. We are in the Freeride Guide League. If you're in the Peak Performance Fun Bet, join our league. The Freeride Guide League, you just get it when you go either online or mobile. Find Freeride Guide Fun Bet League, ask to be joined, and we'll launch you in there. I think the overall is a peak performance like experience at Verbier, and then they give you like a t-shirt or a hat. So we're as I've mentioned a few times, they're coming. We've got some hats coming. Derek and I've got a couple hats on. If you're watching the YouTube, I've got some shirts being printed. So we're going to do some shirts and hats and stuff as some of the prizes that I'm just going to send out because we want to play with you guys and we're stoked. It seems as though if I keep going the way I'm going after this second event, I may be giving my own self a hat or a shirt. So I had a good week. I finished 8th overall this week and the whole thing. So top 10, whole thing, pretty proud of myself. I'm sitting 60th overall I don't know how many people are in total. There's got to be a few thousand.
Yeah.
And I'm now sitting 3rd place in the Freeride Guide Fun Bet League. I'm just pulling it up here. All right. So the ranking in our Freeride Guide Fun Bet League, we have got in 1st place, Georgie Evans 4. In 2nd place, we've got Backy Benny, and in 3rd place, we have LPP Mark, which is me. I'm going to gloat and float on this for at least 4 or 5 more days until I get absolutely hammered and crushed and humbled next week, I'm sure. So that's 1, 2, 3. Georgie, she's killing. She's like ahead by 600 points to 2nd place. and she's ahead of me by 1,000 points. So
that is impressive.
Yeah,
Georgie, you are on it.
yeah. So it looks like she's running away, but anything can happen. Anything can happen. So Derek is currently, you were at 4th last week?
Yeah, I had a tumble.
Yeah, you're back
Tumble.
down to 15th place. So that's just the thing, is like, you can never know. You can never know. So you just get lucky, which is what I did, but it's definitely fun, especially for bragging rights. So I've got the Freeride Guide podcast bragging rights currently. I think you crushed me last year. So if you guys want to join us, do it. And it's a lot of fun. So that's it for the Val Thorens Pro. Anything that you want to end off with there, Derek?
No, I'm just so stoked that it went well. You know, France has been wanting a stop on the world tour since they lost the stop in Chamonix back in 2017, and it was spectacular. I got to give a shout out to the fans. They had like full-sized head photo cutouts of their homies. They had Virgil Didier, they had Noemi Aki out there. They had the smoke bombs, the colored like red and blue smoke bombs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was like I mean, it gave the Spanish a run for their money. It wasn't quite as insane, but it was I'll say a close second to what I've seen for just like vibe. You know, they were loud, they were stoked, they were having a blast. And it was very cool to be back, and then to see, of course I want I want to see Canadians do well because I'm Canadian, but it was very cool to see Frenchies do well in France and see the fans just be like so behind them. So really exciting to see Freeride back in France after a bit of a hiatus.
Very, very cool. And that's a good segue. We have got Kicking Horse coming up next week in about 5.5 days to the official start of the weather window. So if you're in Calgary, if you're listening in Banff, if you're listening in Canmore, Fernie, or anywhere that's nearby, Revelstoke, get on your horse, get in your car, hop on your one wheel or your electric bike. Hop in your little Cessna plane, get to Golden and get to this event because it is awesome. And we need to represent for Canada. We are biased. We are Canadians. We're from there. We want to show up for the Canadian riders and everybody, to be honest. We're not in the middle of a legendary Alps village with several resorts or hundreds of resorts like in a massive area. It's a small little mountain town in the Canadian Rockies. So let's get going. Sorry, Purcells. Someone's gonna yell at me.
Yep.
The Purcells. But you can actually see the Purcells, the Selkirks, and the Rockies up from one point at the top of the Eagle's Eye restaurant at Kicking Horse Mountain Resort. So we want to see you guys pop up. I am going to be there on the mic, emceeing the event with Brett Tippie once again. You're going to be there with a new co-host, Amy Engerbretson.
Yep.
And we're going to have a really good time. So if you're nearby, come on down and come and say hi. We're going to have some Freeride Guide stickers. We might have some swag to kind of give away. It's going to be fun. Thank you very much to Surefoot Skiing, the home of custom ski boots, custom heated liners, custom orthotics. It is the place you need to go to get your boots right because they are the most important piece of equipment you're going to have. They have 29 locations around the world. We said 26 last time. They're growing. 29 locations around the world. Go to surefoot.com to find the location nearest you in the USA, in Canada, or Europe. So go do that now. Big shout out to Skull Candy for the headphones that you can see us in if you're watching the YouTube channel. And also to Insta360, who supplied me with a couple cameras. If you're interested in a camera for yourself, go to the YouTube description or the podcast description, and we've got a little promo code, low pressure, and you can get yourself a free gift and a discount on a camera. So that's about it, man. If you haven't yet, go follow the Freeride Guide, hit follow, give us a review, subscribe, do all those things, tell your friends, follow us on Instagram. And we will talk to you guys sooner than you think.
Can't wait. We'll see you after Kicking Horse. Hopefully we'll see you at Kicking Horse.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, take care.
This has been a Redmark Media production.